Jim in the room, but there's this Mark Yaxley. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. Firstly, before I go to a couple of matters of detail, and our detail is really around the ability to deliver programs. And before we go there, I just want to recognise that we do understand the Council's challenges in trying to balance the book, so to speak, while, and that includes balancing your day-to-day business needs with the needs of the rebuild and also the needs of others who wish to have investment in new transport initiatives, including the agency. But I'd just like to highlight a couple of areas of change in your annual plan that you signalled from the 3-year plan. In regard to passenger transport, firstly we'd like to acknowledge that you have made good progress through the working party chaired by Councillor, who's just left the room, is he? No, he's not. He has just left the room. There he is, Phil Clearwood over there. The working party's made good progress on passenger transport, and we acknowledge that there's a bit of a false start late last year, but I think there's a long way yet to go. And next year, 14-15, is a big year for passenger transport in Christchurch. There'll be 2 major changes. There'll be the new bus interchange completed by about April next year, that is being co-delivered with the Council, Sarah and ourselves, and the associated network improvements in the central city. But importantly, later this year, early next year, sees the next step change in the services changes that are proposed by ECAN under their hub and spoke model. Now, in order to make all of that work, there is a need to get timely investment in some services improvements through ECAN and infrastructure improvements in conjunction with the City Council. And we do welcome the opportunity to work with you, and we'd just like to get a refined plan together that we can all commit to next year. I think it's important to recognise that in order to get the benefits from passenger transport for the wider city, both in terms of dealing with those who don't have access to a car necessarily, that includes the young and the old and those who simply don't have the means, but also the fact that passenger transport does offer opportunities for resolving congestion. We heard an earlier speaker regarding opportunities for bus rapid transport into the future, but buses do feature largely in the plan for Greater Christchurch and solving the total transport solution. So it's a mixed mode solution with passenger transport, walking and cycling initiatives and some road improvements. And the parallel point there is, in regard to the speaker earlier, is the plans for infrastructure upgrades have been on the books for a number of years, both for suburban interchanges and for network improvements, but we're just making very slow progress. And I think it's understandable we had a delay because of the quakes, but there is a need to push forward and get some of these improvements underway. With the cycling network improvements, we realise the Council's decided to stretch the time frame from a 5-year to 8-year delivery program for your strategic cycle initiatives. But we would like to have discussions with Council in the next year about potential funding for some of those initiatives. We did make the offer last year, but we're still awaiting an application for funding. Our staff... Sorry?
Yeah, that's what the submission says, and I've written down need to get advice on this in big letters.
Yeah.
So we are waiting for the Council to provide an application for funding, correct, which if we don't make an application really by September this year, it's all over. For the 2015 year.
Potentially, yes. Yeah. I mean, the sooner the better, essentially. And look, we're not averse to investing it, and last year we signalled our appetite for investing in your signalled network upgrades. Our staff are working closely with the City Council staff to refine a business plan for the primary routes, and we do wish to see some of those on the ground next year. We do have some funds available, not a huge pot of money, but we do have some funds available, still waiting to be allocated to the city, and so we'd like to get on with those.
Yep.
I guess just on a wider note, we are concerned about the lack of progress on the Council's wider transport projects. For the current National Land Transport Program, the City Council indicated somewhere in the order of $112 million worth of projects it wishes to make a start with. We could only earmark $30 million for our potential half share of that in the National Land Transport Program. In the year to date, which is the first year of your 3-year plan, we have only been asked for and approved money to the value of 1.7 million. So we're barely, touching 20%, if you like, of available funds. We've got 14 months to deliver potentially the balance of 30 million. Then we start a new planning cycle with government. So my plea is we'd like to see progress more quickly, or certainly a signal that you're not going to utilise the money, so it would be reallocated somewhere else in New Zealand. But it's being held at the moment for Christchurch because of the government's desire to see some progress.
I think we're all with you.
Okay. I think the other thing I'd just like to make a comment, it's not in our submission, but some of the improvements are actually related to long-run congestion issues that have been there for some time. They predated the quakes. Yes, we need to make progress on the rebuild activities, but we also need to continue planning for and delivering projects for the wider network. We've seen over recent months a number of issues regarding congestion, particularly in the northern part of the city. And yes, we've been able to make some very small tweaks to improve things, but the long-run planning and delivery of the projects that will work into the future is still important. So we have made an offer to Council on how we might assist funding some of your share of that ahead of time in your program, and we do reaffirm that we're prepared to provide some advance cash for Council in order to meet some of those deliverables for the Northern Arterial. Thank you.
Phil?
Jim, thank you very much for your...
No, that's not Jim.
Sorry. Do you want my glasses,
Mark,
Phil?
it's Mark. Sorry,
Yeah.
yes it is. I've talked with Jim and yourself at the public transport group, and I think the governance working relationships are good, and I think what we're going to need to do is make sure, though, that between yourselves at NZTA and ourselves as councillors, and in fact we lead this, I guess, more aggressively than has been done. And so clearly there's some areas there that we need to refer to staff for comment, and we will. But thank you for your submission.
Thank you.
And did you say some cycleway money is available as well?
Correct.
How much?
Nationally we have about $12 million yet to allocate. Well, we'd like to see it allocated and actually fully spent, if you like, by 30 June next year.
But that's not included in the 30 million?
No, that's separate.
in addition?
That's in addition.
Oh yes, I can feel a cycleway coming along as well. Yanni?
In regards to the cycleway, the road that you've done by the airport, Johns Road, there's no cycleway going in there, but you're saying you've got money, but we haven't been able to seem to convince you to build cycleways where your existing projects are happening. Can you just help me understand why not?
Okay, it's a good question. The challenge around cycleways is, where's the right place to locate them? What's the right form for them? The challenge with putting a cycleway on Johns Road as it's been designed, it's a very high speed, high traffic environment. It's what's called a limited access road, so the abilities for properties to gain direct access to the road is limited. So therefore, where's the right place to locate that cycle facility? At the moment, there is a study going on with Council, the airport company and Kiwi Rail in that western part of the city to look at the wider network issues, including planning for cycling. We have in the plans for the route improvements out there at Memorial Avenue and Harewood Road incorporated cycle improvements to get cycle traffic across the highway. The challenge is to provide a parallel network that connects up the cyclists.
Question. You talk a lot in here about Sarah, and you do raise the issue with the Central City Recovery Plan and the 3-year plan not being aligned, and I totally agree, and the Auditor General had a very good, I think, analysis of some of the lack of strategic direction from Sarah over the skirt alignment with the different plans. So, but I'm interested that you haven't really mentioned skirt in your submission. Have you done any work around possible cost savings or cost benefits to aligning the skirt work in the central city with NZTA and with council and with government, so that we're only going past and fixing roads once and getting the desired outcome rather than doing it in a kind of we seem to be taking 4 or 5 goes at fixing roads.
Firstly, we're not the project lead for the Central City, but we do have a relationship with both Sarah and the City Council on the planning and the funding for them. At the top table, there is a lot of discussion going on at the Chief Executive level and down to the officers about trying to best integrate the various programs. So we do, where possible, have what you might call a one-pass approach, rather than having to keep going back and, as you say, potentially digging it up. So we try and minimise that where we can. The challenge in that is the timing doesn't always work to fix the pipes versus necessarily doing the network changes for the transport. So we do try and line them up as best we can to minimise that. And in many cases where the roading improvements can't be fully implemented, as was the recent example in Kilmore Street, some enabling works by the way of putting in ducts for later cabling and the like are put in while skirt is going through. So we try and minimise the amount of rework.
The reason that we've been told that Salisbury Street and Kilmore can't align with skirt is because there's no money. Well, so if you have cash that you could bring forward for us to align that with the skirt repair, wouldn't that be a sensible thing to do? Could we not look at doing that so we can actually get them done and complete?
Okay, I guess the financial aspect of those projects relates to the cost-sharing agreement with the Crown. And in that cost-sharing agreement, there are some limits on the amount of money for what is known as Phase 1 transport projects. That's limits on all sides, so that's the Council, NZTA and the Crown. So, I guess what you're asking for, can that envelope be widened? Well, and that would be a business case that would have to go through all 3 parties, including the Crown.
Can I, Vicky?
We had a submission this morning from the Spokes group, and one of their suggestions was the creation of a cycle advisory group. Do you have one?
We've started one for Christchurch. Yes.
You have got one?
Yes, we've got a national cycle advisory group which includes all the main advocate groups, and we just started one in Christchurch which has just had a very introductory meeting, and they will be providing more input into cycle planning for Greater Christchurch over the coming months.
Well, can we share?
You're part of it.
Oh.
Council will be part of it, yes.
And cycle user groups are part of that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Spokes and Can are both part
Thanks.
of it.
That's
Yeah.
great. So they came and asked for it this morning, it's already done.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But if we're part of it, eh? No, but I'm just saying, if there's going to be a citizen cycle advisory panel, it makes sense that it's a shared one rather than just one organisation.
Yep.
So it's kind of shared with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the intention. Some of them can do both.
But it is it's a citizen cycling advisory panel, so it's made up of citizens.
That's the intention, yes, yeah. One of our managers is the national advocate for it, yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, I think that's all. So, look, thank you very much for your time. That was great. Yes, in advance.